Hello everyone, I'm Grandmaster Priyadarshan Kanappan and you're watching the ChessGyan YouTube channel, and this is the series Checkmates in Chess. So we have been talking about checkmates that happen, starting from a1 square, and right now we are on the e3 square, and it's called the ecstatic e3 square. That's the name of this episode, and let's jump into it. And I'm pretty sure you all know that, in every episode we give like a puzzle. That's like the last position we discuss, and on the next episode we discuss the answer. So here I have the answer for the episode from the d3 square. If you haven't checked out that episode yet, go ahead and check that out on the videos, and then you can like think about the solution and so on, and then once I reveal it, you can compare your solution if that's the right one or not. So this was the position that I had given as a kind of like the puzzle, and I had said it's black to play, and like how is black going to win on the d3 square, or checkmate on the d3 square. And it's a very forcing variation, and I want to repeat this kind of like even a hint for the viewers that this episode, or in general all the episodes in this series, have a lot of forcing moves, mainly checks, captures, and threats. I would say even predominantly checks and captures, not even a lot of threats, because we're talking about checkmates, and checkmates generally happen when you give checks, like there's like no other possibility. So here, black played a very forcing check and also capture together combined, and that was rook takes a4. And this forces white to play rook takes a4, and as the rook on a2 has moved, now this square on b2 is vulnerable, and that is what black exploits, as black goes queen b2 check, and after queen b3, there's two ways to checkmate. One is the simple just capture the queen and it's a checkmate, but in this game Robin van Kampen, the grandmaster from Netherlands, went for a slightly more stylish checkmate, I would say. Went for knight d3, and it was a checkmate. So now let's jump on to the e3 square episode. So the first position that we have on this episode is this position, and here let me flip the board. Actually, let's not flip the board. Like, white made a mistake here. Like, it looks like white is 2 pawns up, very simple position, like rook bishop, and a big surprise is that white made a huge blunder here, and that was white played rook a2, and which allowed rook e3 with a checkmate. And you would be thinking most probably this is a game played between maybe two beginners, or lots so strong players, and there was an oversight or allowing a checkmate in one. And you would be very surprised if you hear the players who played this with white and black. The white side was Jan Gustafsson, 2645, close to 2660 plus grandmaster, and black was Romain Edward, who was 2641, and also a very strong grandmaster from France. So even grandmaster chess, sometimes in blitz games you see some horrible blunders, and this is one of that, I would say, because after rook a2, like instead of rook a2, you could play literally any move. You could move the bishop away from f5, creating a square for the king to walk there, and so on. And so what do we learn? Even grandmasters make mistakes. So let's move on to the next example that I have here. So this is the position, and this is a very instructive checkmate, I would say. Like, you might be considering, like based on the theme of this episode, like the knight has to go to e3 at some point, it's a checkmate, and you might even start calculating, knight e3, and is it a checkmate? No, it is not, because the king escapes via e1, and then like you can give a check here, and then after rook here you can capture, after here it's a checkmate. It's a checkmate, but it took around 4 to 5 moves. But in this position, if you look carefully, there is a checkmate in 2, and that's the move that black played in this game. And I would suggest the audience to pause the video, figure out what is that checkmate into, and once you figure it out, make it on the board. So let me reveal the answer, and it is sacrificing the rook on e4 with a check, rook e1. So what is the idea of rook e1? It is basically after bishop e1, the e1 square is not available for the king. And now the knight jumps to e3 with a check, and the king cannot go anywhere because this pawn, knight and rook are working together as a team, restricting all the exit squares for the white king. So let's move on to the next example that we have here. So this is the position, and again like we will be looking at it from like white's perspective because white ended up delivering the checkmate. But I think it's also instructive to know what was the big blunder that black made in this position, because again a position of this looks like fairly balanced, 4 pawns for both sides, bishop for black, knight for white, nothing special. But black made this move bishop c6, which is very careless. And now let me flip the board, and I would suggest the viewers to think about it, like how can white deliver a checkmate? And if you're thinking knight e3 check directly, it's not the move because the king kind of runs back to g6, and then the king can go back. So I think that would have given you some ideas on what could be the move for white. And if you had guessed that white would play h5, absolutely right. So what does h5 do? It takes away this critical escape square away from the black king. So black's king is like kind of in big danger, and black is like, okay, I'll at least sack a pawn and get my king to e4. And now what should you do if you're playing with white pieces? Should you be greedy and take the pawn? Absolutely not, because if you take, king comes e4, and then black has good chances to even like create counterplay, because if you go knight c2 defending this pawn on d4, black can go bishop a4, attack the knight, and once the knight moves he can pick up the pawn and so on. But for bishop c6, h5, very good move, e3, white has another very strong move, and that is without taking the pawn. White goes king f3 first, and now king is covering this square and this square, and black has no good way to kind of distract the king or the knight. So black tries one last trick. He's like, I'll go e2, maybe I'll try to play e1 queen or something, and I'm pretty sure you would have figured out now there's a very simple checkmate on the board, and that starts with knight e3, and it's a checkmate, and the king is on f5. Not often you would see like in a simple endgame the king getting checkmated, but this is one of such examples. So let's move on to the next example that we have here, and this one is the kind of the puzzle homework that I give on every video, and it's black to play. So I flip the board, think about it, calculate how could the checkmate have happened. It's a very nice and a long position, and you by now I'm pretty sure you all would have figured out that the difficulty of the puzzles generally go up with every position. So this is obviously not an easy puzzle to solve, but if you look at it, there are some very good forcing moves. So kind of focus on those and keep going, like forcing move like that, and maybe you may get that idea of how to deliver a checkmate, or like win a lot of material, and how the game kind of played out. So this is the position for you all to solve. I will be seeing you all in another video very soon. Signing off as Grandmaster Priyadarshan. Like smash that like button, and if you have any feedback or comments on what we should be doing soon in the channel related to content, please feel free to comment them, and also share it with your friends or any chess enthusiast who really wants to improve their game. And signing off, Priyadarshan. Bye bye everyone. Bye.